LeBron says Giannis could score 250 points a night if he played in the 70s. Is that true? I don't think so. Obviously, LeBron's exaggerating a little bit, but the truth is, up until the 80s when Magic and Bird entered the league, the skill set in the NBA was well below what it is now. So in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe Giannis could score like 50 points a night. He'd also get called for a lot of travels, a lot of carries, a lot of offensive fouls. There were just things that they would not let slide back then that they do let slide now. In fact, I wish the NBA would kind of rein that in a little bit and get back to some of the basics, not allow 3 and 4 steps, the gather step plus the this step plus the blah, blah, blah. It's like they're just allowing traveling at this point. So that would not fly back in the 70s. Here's the thing. Up until Magic and Bird, if you go look at Magic and Bird's, even their NCAA championship game, which is actually in Salt Lake City where I'm at, back in like, what was it, 80, 79? I can't remember. But anyway, that final championship game in the Final Four, Indiana State versus Michigan State, have you watched the highlights of that game? That was quality basketball. That was not, guys driving left, dribbling with their right hand like people want to think it was. That's Bob Cousy time. Bob Cousy was great for his time, but he would get smoked in today's league. That's not what happened from the 80s and beyond. The 80s and beyond, you had the top athletes in the world, or at least in America, wanting to play basketball, especially when Magic and Bird hit the NBA, became mainstream. Then Jordan comes on, and the best athletes in America chose basketball. Now the best athletes in America choose football. So you could maybe argue that today's best athletes growing up aren't choosing basketball. They're choosing football. And so the eras, it's an interesting thing. It's all different. You can never really know. There are some guys that would transcend all of them. Magic and Bird are 2 of those players. LeBron and Jordan, Kobe. There's a lot of these all-time greats that would transcend all eras. Wilt and Russell maybe would. They're back late enough. I don't know if they quite could, but could Giannis score 200 points a night? No, of course not. Are the eras as drastic as people think? Honestly, once the 80s hit, it's really not. Like, go watch the highlights. There's not that big of a difference. In fact, you could argue that today's players are just getting away with a lot more. If you allowed these guys back in the 80s to travel, they would have scored a lot more points too. Jordan's college basketball national championship highlight that we've all seen where he hits the game winner against Georgetown, there's no three-point line even on the court. That's how different the times were. If the three-point shot had been focused on, it would have been a totally different story. So the athletes were there. In fact, I would say the top athletes of their time played basketball in the 80s and 90s, and I would argue from the 2000s and beyond, football has taken over in America, and the top athletes are choosing that. So interesting thought.